Do you have assigned seats?
Great. All right, everyone. Welcome to our Creative Stack panel, talking about the Project Odyssey competition with some of our judges, competitors, and sponsors. I'm Matty Shimura. I'll be your host and moderator today. I was the executive producer of Project Odyssey, and I'll let each of our panelists give their own intro.
Hey, what's up, y'all? My name is Willonius. I'm a stand-up comedian, AI storyteller, and I made the viral hit song BBL Drizzy last year.
Hi, everyone. I'm James Gerde, professionally known as Gerde. I run an AI film production company off the backs of a lot of work I've done the last couple years, primarily in the open source space with tools like Comfy UI, Stable Diffusion, Animate Diff. You might know some work that I've done, like the dancing Greek statues or dancing spaghetti. I like to take performance from humans and bring that into a place of bringing the unhuman into a real-life space. So that's what I do.
Hey everybody, I'm Nik Kleverov, Chief Creative of Native Foreign. We are the agency and studio that brought you the Toys R Us film. We are also doing lots of other creative with AI, including the Critters film, and I'm an AI director, creative director, and had a film that took home a couple awards at Project Odyssey.
Hey, I'm Justin Maier. I'm the CEO and founder of Civitai. It's a play off of the Latin word civitas, which is an AI community. So we make it possible for people to come together and kind of gather all the resources that they need to make the best AI content. And we actually were the hosts of Project Odyssey.
Nice. Yeah. So we just wrapped up season 2 of our competition early this year. Both Willonius and Gerde were judges. Nick was a competitor, and Justin was one of our title sponsors and hosts. So that's really what brought this group together. We've seen each other at other conferences. We've collaborated in different ways. A big part of the competition's success was actually at Malaga last November, where we announced season 2 of the competition with our launch partners, FreePick and Magnific. So wanted to really give them a big shout out and thank you. And you saw from that montage video, that was some of the winners made with the tooling. The song was made with FreePick tunes. So really trying to drive some of that creative energy from this grassroots perspective of how can we get the companies, creators, communities all together and walking in lockstep so that we can help push the medium forward, make it more accessible. I wanted to get all of your perspectives, seeing the competition firsthand, either watching the films, making your films itself. Where have you seen it come from in January when we ended the competition to now? And where do you see it going in the next 4 months? You know, it seems like a lifetime in the world of AI, but 4 months is not that long. So what are your thoughts on, you know, where it's going and where it's been and where it's going to go?
I'll start. This time last year, a lot of the AI videos, we were happy to get a little bit of, mostly like slow motion, and they were mostly like voiceovers. So like now with the tools, the way they're structured now, you can tell full stories, and that's like really exciting. And just to see within the span of 1 year how the stories are developing, how the technology is developing, it's really exciting. So I don't know where we're going to be at in a year from now, but I'm super excited about it.
Well, what about just 4 months, Gerde? You know, if we had to time box it, where do you think that the tools are going to be? You know, there are a lot of announcements at this conference and, in adjacent spaces in the past weeks. Where do you think it's going in 4 months?
I mean, in a similar sort of vein, like a year is a lifetime at this point. So 4 months is like, I mean, we're seeing new tools drop every day right now. It's the hardest part of my job every day is keeping up in Discord chats or on X, just trying to see what new tools are coming out, and like then what I have to try and go stand up and play with and test and see, and where do things fit into production lines. So like things are moving so fast right now that it could be just cleaner, higher resolutions coming out of new video models, and that would be incredible by itself. But chances are 4 months from now, the same way we've gotten in the last 4 months, we're going to get at least a couple bombshell models that come out that shake everything up. Like, none of us expected the GPT image model that's like perfect prompt adherence, and then the way that that plays into doing image to video, and now like, oh, we have consistent characters. That happened. Then Runway put it out. Then everybody started putting it out. Like, I think we're going to see those types of moments happening more and more.
It is a lot to keep up with, and sometimes I feel like that's half my job, which is actually where, services like FreePick are excellent, because if I can log into a place and all the latest tools are there for me, that makes my life a lot easier as a creator, and I can just worry about creative and storytelling. And, I think, we're going to see a lot of pretty wild stuff coming out here shortly, and hopefully we can all just have an easy way to access them and focus on what's important.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, since January, since the Project Odyssey Season 2 ended, so much has been released. I was realizing just when I was thinking about it that, one, the open source video tool didn't even get released until February 25th. So that's a whole new slew of possibilities as far as like open source training goes for creating video content. And that dropped since the end of the competition. And, earlier, CEO FreePick said, they're releasing new major features every 3.7 days. And it makes sense because there's new models and tools dropping every day. So you have to be releasing that fast. So who knows where we'll be in 4 months, because it's just accelerating.
Yeah, you can get some whiplash. Definitely, it's nice to have more of a universal currency. So all of you on this panel are AI, media, and entertainment success stories in your own way. Either founding brands, companies, studios, and being able to bring together these really large followings. Mm-hmm. I wonder, compared to other industries, that this success does reflect this American dream in a way, where it's whoever has the best idea, the best execution of that, where it doesn't matter as, if you went to film school, if you know someone at the studio lot, whether you have a lot of money bankrolling at you. It's more about you as an artist, you as an individual. Of course, you might have your teams too, but being able to manifest that success. From those on the outside looking in, I think there are many company founders, aspiring founders, creators themselves, who are looking at your success story. What do you think it takes to get to that level? And then once you're there, in terms of sustaining that and making it a career, not just a viral moment. Gerde, I maybe would love to start with you. You've been featured on Jimmy Kimmel. How did you move beyond just that breakout moment?
Yeah, so what's really fascinating about it in the time that we live in for this, I before getting into all of this, I ran a small video production studio in Seattle, and I floated mostly around local artists in the Seattle area. And there's always this fun joke I love to make with my business partner, where a lot of people have this kind of thing against, having to market themselves on social medias, whether that's small businesses or artists or anybody, and they're like, I hate doing it. I don't like doing it. It sucks that we have to do it that way. The old days were better before any of that. And it's like, back then we had like 4 famous people, cumulatively, and nowadays you can go on TikTok with no following and make a video you rapping at the camera and 200 people will see it. It's the best day ever. Like, every day is an increasingly better day to get seen for the stuff that you make. And so, it's an incredible time to be alive as that, if you are trying to put yourself out there without having to have a million pre-existing connections or years worth of going to school. I've gotten to speak in some pretty big places now, and one of my favorite things to say with all of this where did you study? Where did you go to school? I failed out of community college twice, right? And have one of the largest platforms in the world for this and get to spend every day making stuff I love and pushing the boundaries of what's possible. And part of that and being able to sustain it is hard work. And what I knew from before, running around Seattle with my camera, was there were nights where I would go and I would shoot concerts for $40 a piece, and I'd shoot 3 in the same night, and I'd do that every day just so I could make rent. So what I'm doing now is a whole lot better than that. And that's really what it's about, is it's about consistency. How bad do you want it? And then that mixed with the right ideas can take you anywhere. We live in a time of everything being possible. And so that's like the thing about it being a real success story is like you can just go get it. More than ever before in history, if you want something, you can just go and make it, you can just go and do it, and you can get there. So,
Yeah. Gerde, you touched a little on the social media aspect and also being a self-starter. Justin, I know that Civitai, right, has these leaderboards. It has this social media component where there are top creators. There are well-known names that have risen to the top and are motivated to stay there. How have you seen that kind of play out in terms of them finding their own success for their following or for financial success too?
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see. When we started, it was such a new space, right? I think Stable Diffusion had released about 2 months before we kind of entered the scene. And these leaderboards acted as essentially lightning rods for people looking for AI talent, people looking for, who do I reach out to if I want to make something, whether that's content with AI or to make a new custom model. And it attracted companies. It attracted people looking to create content. It attracted people looking to kind of gain notoriety as well. And it was interesting because it wasn't just people at the top of the leaderboard that were, thrilled and motivated. It was the people wanting to work their way up. They started with a small audience, 10, 20, 30 people. But as they kind of had that consistency that you mentioned, they made a name for themselves. And so it's been awesome to see as time has gone by, these people placed in all of these AI companies around the industry and to see the awesome stuff that they're creating and to be a part of kind of that community as it's taken off.
Willonius Nik, I know that you both have your own viral moments. Nik, if you don't know, one of Nik's many claims to fame is the Sora Toys R Us commercial, and then just around 1 year ago, the BBL Drizzy, for those who are unfamiliar, between the Kendrick Drake rap beef. It was picked up by Metro Booming, and then
Drake rapped on it, which is insane. Yeah, he rapped on his own diss track. Yeah, but to James' point, I think it's just like you just have to be very obsessed, And I wake up, think AI, go to sleep thinking AI. We were just in LA, doing an AI hackathon. So like my world pretty much consists around AI. I'm always either learning or testing, trying to better my craft. But I think that's what it takes, and then the consistency in order to kind of break through. So, yeah.
I think it's create by any means necessary, and I think that's what we've all been doing for a long time. Your story actually reminded me of a story that I had, because I started out as a PA, getting people coffee, picking up trash. And then I started editing because I couldn't find anyone to edit my little short films, and I got this gig editing a feature film that this rich dude was financing, and we basically edited in his closet. And so he cleared out his closet, and we were editing this film, and I remember I was thinking, wait, if this guy's so rich, why can't he pay me more than $50 a day? But anyway, I got paid $50 a day to edit this film, and the worst thing is he was always topless, and he had this long hair, and he was always like kind of leaning over, like, anyway. So yeah, I've been putting in work for a long time, and so now it's like, we're gonna see this revolution of cinema, independence, creating stuff because you can. You don't need $1 million to do stuff anymore. You can just get out there and start making things. So that's what's exciting.
Outside of just putting the time in, part of many viral AI filmmakers or people you see online is they're half great creative, half personal social media marketer. For those people who are more focused on the art, how do you think that they get that exposure and not be really at the whims of the algorithm?
In my opinion, it's just the consistency. Like I just post as much as I can. I had a video that went viral this year. I posted it at 4:30 in the morning, and every social media person would tell you don't post at that time because nobody's online. But it's just I just find that like I'm just going to flood the algorithm with my stuff and just kind of see what happens.
Consistency is the key to success, for sure. And if you just stay at it, you'll get there.
I think one of the things that's really cool about the world that we live in today is there's an audience for everything. You might start with a small following. even 200 views on something sounds small when you think about it as just a number, but I mean, how many people do we have in the audience here today, right? Like, that's amazing to think that you can make something and 200 people will see it. It's a special time.
Right.
Yeah, I think, and it's funny coming from me that, you know, the numbers don't matter like that, because I do very large numbers on a regular basis, but like some of the videos I'm the most proud of have performed very poorly and had a lot smaller reach, especially on other accounts I have and stuff. But if it shows techniques and things that are valuable and it shows knowledge and the right people see it, that will put you in the right positions. And so you don't need to have 100 million views on something to get opportunity.
Right.
You just need to put it out there, and eventually the right people will start seeing it. Because the whole mystique of the algorithm and the algorithm's doing bad things, your video will get seen more if it resonates with more people. The more people that appreciate it and look at it, or are unsettled by it and end up watching it for way too long. There's multiple ways you can do it, but the point is that people continue to watch it. Right. If it's not interesting to people, they won't. And I used to get bogged down by, oh, the algorithm's doing me really dirty right now. And I stepped back and I was like, maybe I need to reform, like, I just need to make something else. And if I make something else and I keep making something else over and over and over, eventually somebody will like it, and then more people will see it, and then you get emails and calls, and people want to do stuff. So,
yeah, and that's what we tried to do with the Project Odyssey competition, where oftentimes long-form, story-based, narrative-driven suffers on social media. It doesn't do well. We had, thinking about it like the AI Olympics of film, we had music videos, marketing spec ads, narrative films, open format for experimental art, trying to have a time and place to spotlight all of that, and behind the scenes of the creators making these films too. Who is putting this love and craft into those productions? Being judges for this competition, not being in the perspective of the creator more, and being that one who now is deciding what wins or doesn't win, what is able to be seen by more, and being able to filter down from the 4,500 submissions, over 2,000 unique teams. Although many are great films, it's hard to pick a winner. How did you think about that from being creators yourself, of now flipping the script?
Right. Well, from my angle, like I like to look at the complexity, and then just I remember when I was starting out, man, I always was like, man, I just want somebody to see my thing, and the ones that I picked, I just felt like they were very passionate about what they were creating. I mean, everybody was passionate, but they were like a little bit different, and I don't know, they kind of really like spoke to me. So, and I was like, man, this is an opportunity to like give somebody, you know, some shine that maybe they're not always getting it. So that's how I chose my picks.
Coming from a background in filmmaking, have a fun perspective about this, that I tried to sort of remove the AI aspect from it, because what we're really looking at in a film festival, and we're objective to the categories, is these films are setting out to do something. Did they accomplish that? Was it the best? Like, did it accomplish it the best? So when we're speaking on narrative pieces, you know, like, of course, there's ones that the technical ability is the best, but I'm not judging this on a tech demo. And that was kind of, you know, I'm judging this as the story that it told. How much suspension of disbelief did I need? How immersed did I get into the world, and how much did it make me feel? And that was kind of where I sat with it. And it's so incredible that we're at a time that there were a lot of them that made me feel. Because just a year or two ago, especially with how much I look at all this stuff on a daily basis, a lot of it can get a little hard to watch at some points, just because I spend all of my day, like, my brain immediately notices all the little things and nuances about the models that are unsettling and uncanny. So when people can break that, and I forget that I'm watching something that was made with, you know, VO and Kling, and and I'm just watching something, and I'm just appreciating what's being shown to me. I think that was what really, really made the difference to me, and what is so special to see from so many of the creators in the competition.
For me, the differentiators were not the amazing AI visuals, but it was those traditional foundational skills of storytelling, of editing, of pacing. Nick, I know you have a past background in film production, as you talked to. I know that your ultimate goal was not winning, but making a great film. But are there ways that you tried to really leverage that competition to try and make something that you think would not just do well in the competition, but, as Gerde said, speak to people, resonate, have that emotional impact to it?
Yeah, so I've been doing brand storytelling now for a long time. And, we work with some of the best and my personal favorite brands in the world. And the agency I was at before, we were famous actually for main title sequences. So I spent a lot of time doing a lot of titles. The notable one I've done is Narcos, we did Bloodline, a bunch of others. So when you're doing a title, you're kind of distilling the themes or ideas of a show. And you're doing it in an artful 30 seconds or less. And the business model has always been like, hey, we're going to do these great brand stories, and then we get to do the cool shit with some of these titles. So when we started Native Foreign, it was actually pre-AI, right? I mean, we've been a brand storytelling company, but of course, I've been a storyteller my whole life. I've been wanting to tell stories, and I've been wanting to get into originals, and the AI tools are now allowing that to happen, which is what I'm personally the most excited about. All these ideas that have just been scribbled somewhere, been locked in a vault, can actually now start coming to life. And I found out about Odyssey. Actually found out about it the first time, but I missed the deadline, and it was everything was so new. So when I saw it coming around, I was excited to try something out. And I actually have to shout out TCL Studios, because they made it possible for us to make this film in a sense of they funded this piece that allowed me to then explore an original creative idea I had a long time ago about, what would it be like if in the future one of the only jobs left was actually painting or creating memories for androids. And that was the premise of the film, and it's just something I had scribbled down a long time pre-AI. And I thought it also kind of spoke to some of the things happening with AI. And that was the one I wanted to explore, and they were super supportive of it, put together a very tight team of very talented artists, and which I actually find like watching videos on LinkedIn or scrolling through all sorts of different platforms. So that was, I wanted it to have heart. I wanted it to try to break this, the kind of, okay, that's an AI film, even though obviously it still is, but telling a good story and being true to the fundamentals of storytelling is what my approach was.
Nice. And tell us a little bit about your workflow. How did you approach it from the technical side?
Yeah, I mean, so we wrote it normally, used a little bit of chat to kind of see if we were missing any, plot holes or anything like that. And then we kind of used a witch's brew of different tools that we've just gotten, very accustomed to using, that range from Sora to Kling to VO to a lot of imaging editing tools, Midjourney, Magnific. It's kind of like the sequencing of how you make things and then put things together is, in a sense, sometimes the style. And that, I find that interesting, kind of getting to learn other artists' certain styles by how they sequence things. And, a little bit of that is our secret sauce, so you don't want to give everything away. But, certainly it's the tools that are available now, right, are what we're using. This was actually before I got into free pick, but yeah, it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah. And speaking about a little bit of everything, Justin, Civitai is a place where image, video, all these different workflows, creators can come together. For the competition, we had this unique engineering challenge of being able to accept thousands of submissions, judge them within the span of the month, be able to review them so that they there wasn't anything egregious that we were publicly posting online. So something different we do with this competition is every single entry gets hosted and posted. So from someone just starting out to the films that win, you can see every single one of them, not just the 10 winners, which I think is a really important part for me, at least, giving everyone their time to shine, to be able to share it with their friends and not have it be lost in the vacuum.
And by the way, real quick, when I submitted and I went out to Civitai, I was like, okay, well, what are these other submissions? And then I was like, actually pretty impressed by just like all these random movies I was finding and new filmmakers, and then reached out to those artists, and then made deals to do other projects with. So it's actually awesome for that too, and for discovery.
And everyone has their own little profile, and you're able to link your social media to it too. Justin, I'd love if you could walk us through some of the engineering challenges. What does it take to host? We have, just for the competition, we had 190 hours of content, but I'm sure on the site it's much more. How does that really work from a technological standpoint?
Yeah. Constant growth. You were there. You remember. First season, lots of learning opportunities. Second season, even more. The big evolution this time around was actually switching how we handle delivering those videos. Previously, we just would have them stored somewhere, and you'd download it. It would start streaming. We ended up having to start delivering videos through Vimeo because it was so much more performant, and so that it could get people into watching their videos a lot more quickly. Making it so that people could easily see the different categories was a good move, so that they could find other submissions in their category, get inspired, kind of understand how people are doing things, and people have been kind enough to also share their process. One of the most important parts about Civitai is that it's really kind of about creating a new format for art. Right? Typically you see the end product, and maybe you'll get to go see the behind-the-scenes footage, and they'll talk about some of how it was made. Well, with AI, there's so much more visibility into how things were made. You can see, the initial images that they used for a scene, or you can see the prompt that they used. And some people share all of that information. They tell exactly which tools they use, how they use them, and it makes it so that it's something that's not just for, sharing what you've made and competing, but also for kind of sharing the craft and inspiring others to do the same. And keeping track of all of that tool information and giving them the ability to kind of put that stuff in, there are some technical challenges with that, but I think that it makes the competition what it is.
And in the competition, we saw all sorts of content, from some creators really honing down into more of a tourist style that they're well known for. Gerde, I think some of your work is very, you see it and you automatically think of you. Whereas other creators, maybe Nik and Willonius, you're more of a jack of all trades, being able to work across different modalities and mediums, with having that signature style adapt more to the components adjacent to it rather than just the pure visuals. I wonder for yourselves as creators how you balance that. Is one approach spreading yourself too thin? Is another pigeonholing yourself? How do you balance breadth versus depth in your own creations?
Yeah. I especially if you follow my work, it does all kind of follow a similar thread. I like to make pretty dance and performance videos. I like to make things that feel very emotionally driven. They're often relaxing to watch, and have harbored a community space on Instagram where people can go to kind of just catch a vibe. Like it's meant to be a nice place and something to enjoy. But I do have outlets for other stuff, and especially when it comes into a lot of gig work and stuff. When an artist reaches out and wants a music video, rarely do they want a raindrop jumping on a seesaw. That's not really what they're asking for. But they're asking for the expertise, and specifically the expertise when it comes to the creative philosophy. Why does this thing that I made feel this way, and how do we make something else that also feels this way? And so, for that reason, I experiment with all tools, anything that comes out. I'm also a partner at FreePick, and have loved opening up, the AI suite on there, a ton of things that I can just jump into and play with, especially when my GPU's clogged up running comfy renders for 6 hours, and I can jump into my browser and do a bunch of cloud-based stuff and get to experiment in a completely different realm of things than what is traditionally mine. And so my balance mostly comes from, I have my very forward-facing things, but at the heart of all of this, it's always been experimentation. It's always been doing something new. And so I try and make sure to remember that. And I do that as much as possible. And a lot of it is stuff that nobody ever sees. And, the stuff that people do see, I hope they like when I step out of my box a little bit.
Yeah, I'm very similar. I just like to do stuff. So for me, it's like I want to be able to experiment because I don't want to be limited. And if somebody came to me and was like, hey, I want to try this particular style, I want to be able to do that, right? And like a lot of the fun for me comes from the problem solving around AI. So you're like, okay, I want to make this type of film or I want to make this type of song. I don't know how to do that. So let's figure out like how we can reverse engineering that. So, you know, very similar to James, right now, like on my Instagram, people love that I make these like Motown songs. I like making all different types of music, but this is what attracts all these different individuals from the music industry that want to hit me up. So I give them that so I can, you know, keep serving the beast or whatever. But personally, I like to just try to experiment as much as I can. And then, because it's just going to make me overall a better artist, you know, the more I can figure things out.
Nick, what do you think about doubling down? You know, being able to continue doing what works versus maybe taking these risks to do something different?
Well, it depends on what the project is, right? And so I'm a storyteller, and that is always at the forefront of what I'm thinking. And if it's a brand piece, you know, I always look at what the business goals of that piece are. You know, what point in the funnel are we for this specific piece? And what story are we telling, and how do we want people to resonate? So I always think about that, especially with, you know, brand partners of, okay, what are we going to do and how are we going to tell the story? And that can take many different, you know, faces. So that's why I think, you know, I'm able to kind of pivot and do what makes the most sense for that project. As far as the personal things, you know, I do have a little bit of a tone, and also, you know, we're doing the Critters film, which will be one of the first, you know, AI native IP-driven films, and we recently announced we have the writers of Paddington and Peru that are, you know, penning it, and we're bringing it to the big screen, and so, you know, that's a personal project that I've been working on and off for a couple of years now that I'm excited that can come to life because of these AI tools. But, you know, I don't like to be too limiting. My friend Chad actually said the business of creativity, I will say that's a little bit of what I'm in as well. You know, the ability to, my father was a famous artist in Soviet Russia, actually was persecuted by the government. And, you know, he kind of spent his life fighting that battle. I can't draw a stick figure pony if my life depended on it, but I'm a different type of artist, and I find other artists and collaborate with them and create great stuff.
And Justin, speaking of those fine-tuned styles of being able to have that distinctive one, I think from knowing Civitai and knowing a lot of the creators on there, they do have their niche. They have their specific aesthetic, their type of character that they like to focus on. How have you seen them being able to focus on one vertical versus branching out in terms of the community's reaction to that, or the usage of those different fine tunes? Do you see that the creators just kind of stick with what's already working, or when it comes to when these new models come out, they kind of transfer that over, they try something different?
Yeah, good questions. I mean, I think it kind of follows most other content platforms. Creators are going to create what people like. You know, if you are trying to find your niche, you're going to do a lot of different things, and then once you find something that works, you do that over and over again to get the following that you want. We see the same thing on our platform. People will, you know, create a bunch of different ideas, whether that's characters or concepts on top of a model, and then, you know, if they're early on that model, maybe they get a following there, or maybe they've done it better than anybody else, so they'll get a following, and then as things continue to evolve, they'll continue to fine-tune those things. So the breadth versus depth thing, it works the same way there. I think one of the things that's really cool about the platform is that since, you know, it's a community, you can find everything there, and because, you know, creators are all about going deeper on the things they're successful on, you'll find deep, focused versions of very specific stuff, very specific fine tunes for kind of anything at this point. And as it continues to grow, it just gets better and better. So definitely a fun use case.
Yeah. And on this panel, we talked a little bit about a mix of team projects, individual creators. I know that there's recently been a rise of the AI studio system, I don't know what you want to call it, where these creative agencies, these film production houses have either transitioned to AI film or have been getting some great and amazing VC funding to be able to finance their productions, build tool sets. For yourselves, how have you made that decision, whether to stay independent, to start your own studio, to think about in-house production capabilities? Where is that dividing line between working on what you want to do and having that creative control versus being part of a larger org and maybe getting more support, being able to divide and conquer? Each of you are only one person.
Right.
How do you think about scaling that up and maintaining that voice of an artist, but also, you have to run a business. You got to pay the bills. How do you balance that for yourself in the inbound projects that you're receiving?
For me, it's time and money. If I have the time and the money looks good, then I'll consider it. It's kind of simple as that. But then, a lot of times you just want to make sure you're working on a meaningful project, like it has like a good purpose behind it, and then it aligns with just your values. So I think about that a lot. But yeah, and also I want to be challenged. Like that's like a big thing for me. It's just like I want to continually always get better in my craft. So it's like, man, I'm going to be working with some artists, or we're going to be doing something that's probably never been done before, or try to really push these AI tools to the limit. Then that really excites me.
Are there any upcoming projects that we might?
BBL Drizzy the musical. That's happening. So it's a sci-fi immersive experience. We're doing it at a planetarium. So yeah, it's kind of like first of its kind. So yeah.
Any other cool projects that we should have a heads up about, or how you kind of balance it out for yourself as that solo creator?
Yeah, I have always been very solo focused, and like I run a production studio. But the cool thing that we learned a long time about running production companies, when the camera was democratized, when like DSLRs got video functionality, and suddenly you didn't need a $20,000 camera. Suddenly you could just kind of do it. Was a garage works great for that, and we started to see the line thin between high budget film and somebody who just really cared and could do it. And so we're seeing that now in this space specifically. So and we're also seeing that like there's nothing stopping me as a production studio and the people that I work with from going and partnering up with another production house and doing that. But I think that the biggest thing for me is that I'm at my happiest when I get to do the decision making creatively. And so not that I don't step out and go and offer assistance and consultation and work with as many other people as I can for the experience, but when it comes to a project-to-project basis, I want to be an artist. I've always wanted to be an artist. That's my entire life. That's all I've wanted to do is create, and I want to create for me. And so if I can spend the majority of my time doing that, that's where I'm happy. So I hold off a little bit on, I'm not out looking to jump in and do everybody else's project first. Mostly mine, but I do that occasionally too.
I will say over the years I have become a bit of a business person, but these AI tools have actually really awakened a childlike creativity in me again, where I am on the box, I am doing things. It's helped me connect better to other artists. It's also helped me create new ideas, and I think I like the balance of working with brands, working on originals. It's really fun. My life is always interesting, and every project is its own unique, special moment.
I think as I've thought about, how can I support people looking to make awesome stuff together? As a community builder, it's really been about creating spaces where they can see what other people have made, they can find, projects that are kind of available, and find the right person to help them jam on that thing. So, when I think about how to tackle the biggest and best projects, it's finding interesting ways to bring new and upcoming creators together. Because like Nick said, this technology inspires a whole new wave of creativity and capacity that just didn't exist before. We're empowering everybody to create at a level that was unimaginable before. And so I want to help as many people as possible come together to kind of create their dreams. And it's fun to to be able to kind of be in a position to make that happen.
I actually had a client, one recent thing that's happened is we did a cut for a client and he watched it, and one of the best things that he said was, wow, those shots right there, I actually do not know how we would have done them before AI. Wow. And so for me to make something that makes somebody rethink the way they visually storytell is like, that's
There we go. Well, let's give a big hand to our panel, and thank you so much for coming out.